The Aussie NFL Fantasy Show would like to acknowledge the traditional land owners and the leaders past, present and emerging of Ngunnawal, Ngambri and Darawal countries where we are working from today. This always was, and always will be, Aboriginal land.
So let's just calm down. I think Dalvin will be fine. And yeah, I think this could be a good season for Dalvin coming up. He's still got, after his bye, he's still got like Arizona, Washington, before facing Buffalo. So let's just calm down. Let's let Dalvin get into it. Yeah.
I gotta say, the one thing you don't do to someone who's panicked is say, just calm down.
Yeah.
Whether your fantasy team has been robbed of fantasy points by a star player laying a total egg, or you've been the victim to a high-risk player being injured at work, you need the right advice. There is only one place to go when your team or your player need representation in the court of public opinion. Make time with Manjot Melly, Public Defender.
All right, I need to like give you more pictures, Matty, because you just
I've
did the
literally got
same-
one.
Yeah. Look, you got more this week. You put
I
a
do
million on your
now.
Facebook. Yeah.
do
You
now.
have a lot more to put in the drops and everything, by the way, and the Photoshop. So
You're truly
it's
the
all
master of
good.
one face, though, because you've always got the same wonderful smile. You need to give me some more expression, man. This is art.
Yeah.
At least Taylor gives me a bit of expression. Did you see the face on Dr. Goodcall?
Yeah.
Real cheesy grin.
We all love that guy. Gosh. All right. So, well, we worked out last week that really you can't have both of us bring a player because sometimes we don't either us bring one. So Taylor's worked out the player who's going to go in front of the court of public opinion this week to be defended by Manjot QC. I don't know.
It's
QC,
actually
is that-
Casey now. It's actually
Casey?
Casey.
That is right.
Yeah.
Wow. It's going to be great.
RIP to the Queen. Yeah.
Yeah. That's well. I mean, it's the reason we're all not at work today. So
Prosecution has met and actually talked this week.
and
We
we've
know who's on the
agreed.
docket.
I'm not involved.
Yeah. So I'm a KC now, by the way. Until we
All right,
become a
King's
republic.
Council.
Yeah.
That's it. And then I don't know what we become. I'm going to completely step out of trying any legalese from now on too, because I've completely embarrassed myself every single time we've done this segment, which is, I guess, fine, but I don't know that it's got any value to our listeners. So, Taylor, I'm going to send it over to you to introduce who's coming into the dock this week to have their criminally poor performance analysed and be thrown to the wolves before Manjot's got to try and pluck him out and try and reduce his sentence. All right, I'm going to step aside. You go.
All rise.
We all
Who's
did.
the- I don't know who the judge is. Matty the judge.
I guess
Yeah,
it's
I
me.
I think Maddie, you gotta
Maddie's
be the judge. You gotta be the judge.
Judge
All-
face on.
all
Judge
rise.
face on, yeah.
The judge mediocre.
Judge face on. Be seated.
All right.
Who
First
do
off-
you put in front of me today?
We put Sir Delvin Cook of the Minnesota Vikings, running back, who's not running,
Oof.
just back.
He's back. Dalvin got back.
Delvin got back.
Wow. All right.
Well. All right,
And-
prosecution.
What's he charged with?
Yes.
Come on. Give me this.
He's
give me
charged
the
with
rap
being
sheet.
shithouse, Your Honor. He's charged with destroying people who took him with a high pick in drafts, and he basically just doesn't look like he's a part of this offense, Your Honor.
Wow. Well, I can definitely understand the charge in front of the defendant today, and look, I'm going to need some evidence. I'm going to need you to bring forward a bit of a rap sheet on the guy so I can determine what to do with him.
Look, prosecution calls their first witness Mr. Taylor Goodall. I
Segment
swear
is better
to
and
tell
better.
the truth and only the truth, so help me God.
All right. Let's hear your evidence. What do you got?
Jamal Williams, Brees Hall. Guys, we never really talked about having very good seasons this year. Drafted way, way lower than Delvin Cook. Brees Hall was talked about being a really shithouse running back this year by Mark Downey, and not really exactly, picked up and said that he was going to be very good this year by any of the people on this podcast. Jamal Williams is a backup. Michael Carter is also a backup of Brees Hall. What do these guys have in common? They are all higher than ranked 28th Delvin Cook. 20 bloody 8th, Your Honor. Sorry for the cursing in your old courtroom. Sorry.
I will allow it.
This is unbelievable. He was picked in the early first round. At best, round 8th or 9th. This guy was expected to be a league winner, Your Honor, and he has just not been a part of this offense at all. We've seen KOC come over here as the coach, and all they have done is tried to throw. They have not cared about the running game at all. Look, they might take a look at that and go, maybe we should run the ball more. Sure, there is things that you could look forward to. But I'm talking about these 2 weeks, Your Honor. I want to talk about this guy. He has been dog shit. Ranked 28th. 28th. It's barely even startable. It's barely startable as a running back to an Astro League. And he was taken in the first round. I don't see anything actually getting better in the next couple of weeks because I don't think the regime there's going to all of a sudden just go, oh, let's throw out all the passing that we worked out. We're going to run a McVay offense. We're going to be so pass heavy. I don't think they all of a sudden throw that away in the next couple of weeks. Where does that leave Delvin? The offensive line haven't got in any sort of room right now. He doesn't get the ball. How is a guy that does not get the ball going to all of a sudden turn into a fantasy asset in the next coming weeks? I could say, I'm probably giving stuff for the defense. But I reckon against the Lions, everyone's going to go, oh, this is a huge matchup for the running back. But they're also shithouse in the secondary. So this is also an awesome game for the Vikings to throw. This is the kind of game that Jefferson will probably have 40 points in again. I can see Thielen all of a sudden making a comeback and maybe getting looked at in the red zone. I could even see Osborne getting looked at before this guy Delvin Cook because they do not care about running the ball in this regime.
Oof.
Do I need to say more?
I think I'm pretty happy at this stage to turn the witness over to the defense. You've sort of got out your scruples there, Tay?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll probably end up being a witness for the defense as well, like over past week.
Flip flopping. Yeah.
Well, at this point, I think I'd like to see the defender get in here because, mate, it's going to be tough. I understand that he's a very high draft pick for the Western Wankers in the Astro League, and this could be a difficult spot to defend the guy. So I'm going to turn the witness over to you.
Yes, I am indeed public defender Manjot Melly. Today, I am going to be defending my boy, Dalvin Cook. I'm going to put him as my boy for this. As his King's Counsel, I want to make sure that everyone knows, do not panic just yet. Even I am guilty of panicking about Dalvin. But today, Dalvin, I want to defend you. Your matchup against the Lions is going to look great this week. They are ranked 32nd against opposing running backs, allowing 31.05 fantasy points to running backs each week. Dalvin, if you could get at least 20 of them, that would be good. Now, week 1, Kevin O'Connell. It says on NFL.com, I'll read the quote. I'm bringing my witness, the NFL.com fantasy analyst.
Not as good as my witness, but anyway.
Yeah. Head coach. I need to read the witness statement. Yeah, the witness statement. The witness statement from head coach.
Overruled.
Wait, Your Honor, am I allowed to bring in my witness statement here?
No.
Like, who's Your Honor here? I thought it was Matty, not Taylor. What's this Taylor dude doing?
Yeah.
The prosecution. All right. So NFL.com analyst, their witness statement reads: Head coach Kevin O'Connell, a former quarterback, had seemed to dispel any fears he'd run an overly pass-centric offense in week 1 when Cook logged 20 carries against the Packers. But matters were quite different Monday night. The star back was an afterthought, despite the Vikings trailing by a manageable 17 points entering the second half, although he at least was modestly involved on the receiving end. So, Your Honor, reading out his week 1 stats, he had 90 rushing yards and 18 receiving yards, a solid 12.3 in half PPR. Now, that needs to be said. His numbers would have looked a lot better with a touchdown. Him having no touchdowns so far makes his numbers look like absolute garbage. But that will change soon. I reckon there is enough evidence. His numbers are just a little low because he just hasn't had any touchdowns. The Vikings were so dumb on Monday Night Football, Your Honor. I don't actually understand what Kirk Cousins was doing. It was utter stupidity. What they were doing, they're just letting him throw in the red zone for absolutely no reason. Your Honor, I want to make sure that you know that Dalvin Cook is manageable. He will be back to his best eventually. And I think it starts this week against the Lions, who are again ranked 32nd in running back defense. His other games coming up include the Bears in a couple of weeks. He's got Miami and he's got New Orleans after this, then Chicago, then Miami to be very specific. So this could be the start of a good run. He just faced off against a couple of defenses, but he still had a solid game in that first game. So let's just calm down. I think Dalvin will be fine. And yeah, I think this could be a good season for Dalvin coming up. He's still got, after his bye, he's still got like Arizona, Washington before facing Buffalo. So let's just calm down. Let's let Dalvin get into it. Yeah.
I gotta say, the one thing you don't do to someone who's panicked is say, just calm down.
Yeah. That's definitely. Yeah.
I'm panicked over here, man.
Me too. But look, I'm assured that after doing all research, that starting this week, Dalvin finally will get into it. I think this is the week.
Gosh, okay, so we're looking at this pretty objectively. We've got a couple of weeks of absolute garbage. Like, so 12 points is not what you're signing up for when you take him at your number
It's
9.
just
Can
a
I
lack of a
redirect one
touchdown.
other worry?
Yeah.
Okay. One other worry. Throw it in
And
there.
honestly, like if we're being like, in all honesty, if I had Cook, I wouldn't be shipping it. Like this is me just being, regular analyst just saying that. Whereas a prosecution, my worry is in those first two games, and like me and John obviously touched, they got into a bad game script pretty quickly in that week too. My worry is in those first two games that both of those teams were far better at defending the pass than the run. Like that, to me, those should have been Dalvin Cook games. Like that's what worries me about this regime is that they've just walked in blindly and gone, you know what? I think we need to pass far more to beat these teams. The only reason I think he even got all those rushing attempts is in the second half they were up 23-7 or whatever it was against a Green Bay, and they had to run. They were just like, we don't need to pass anymore. Let's just run. I'm worried in a neutral game script where Dalvin Cook used to get a lot of running, that if they're going to pass in neutral game script situations, that just takes away so many of his rushing attempts over a full season.
Yeah, I agree with that as well. I think Dalvin eventually he'll come back because it's just
I do
soon enough, sooner or later, Dalvin's coming back. If he doesn't, then yeah, just trade him. Honestly, if he doesn't perform this week, I'd hit the full panic and I'd honestly be looking elsewhere.
And he's not alone. People went around him. Derrick Henry, Austin Eckler, guys that people are really starting to hit some panic buttons.
Yeah, there's a lot of flops, and then Saquon's looking good. Christian McCaffrey's looking good. Guys we wrote off in the preseason. So yes, I don't know what
McCaffrey's
the judge
looking
will rule here.
Okay.
He's
not looking like what you bought.
Yeah,
you're just happy he's not injured.
Almost the whole top 5 have just been like
Jonathan Taylor. Oh,
yeah, and Jonathan Taylor was great news too.
So is that the strength of the defense here? Is that of a bad bunch, Cook isn't that bad?
Yeah, Judge Connor, what's your ruling on this case, Your Honor?
This is a difficult situation because, as you all know, I am a shareholder in Dalvin Cook.
Yeah, he is property of ours.
I'm crapping myself.
It depends what you're like. If you were to say you were judging on this, it's a hard one because, like, are you judging what you've seen so far? Are you judging whether you should sell this guy or not? Like, because they can both be true. Like you can
Yeah.
both be like, I'm terrified of this guy, but you also shouldn't sell him either. Like, so it's kind of a hard one to really work out whether like what you've listened to, you've basically heard public opinion and all the Manjot stuff, but it's hard to actually work out what's right. They could both be right,
Yeah.
in the end. but
yeah.
it's really
And
up
if
to
I'm
the person.
sentencing, because what you're saying is, hey, the guy has completely stolen fantasy points out of your pocket by not having scored at times where he should have been getting the ball, and then we're going to punish him now. But he's not going to be like that forever. He's not going to steal fantasy points off you all the time. I can believe that too. So it's it's a tough thing that he shouldn't go without sentencing. He shouldn't go without punishment because he's really hurt fantasy owners who've spent that. He's a first round pick in pretty much any version of fantasy football this year. And I think everyone has been relying on him to do more. Does that,
Community
take
service?
away from his opportunity
Surely
to
he
do
gets-
more? No.
He gets community service at least.
Yeah. He's going to get like 2 years or something. That's what Maddie's going to do. He's
Suspended
going to
sentence.
2 years.
Uh, well, I think a suspended sentence would be right because, I mean, what are you going to detain the guy for just having a couple of bad days? I don't want people to follow me around at work and detain me whenever I have a bad day. I'm in sales. You get bad days, So, and I believe that to be true of Dalvin Cook, but it has been some criminally bad days. So I think we're in a position where we own him, and we know the market for him right now is not worth trying to sell him for what if he just goes back to being an average level of good running back. Not his lofty heights of amazingly good running back like he's had in the last 2 seasons. Even if he's 75% of that, he will return his value. He hasn't yet, and it hurts you. So I think a suspended sentence of 2 years on good behavior would be great. Even just a month of good behavior would be even better.
Put a ankle bracelet on him so he can't leave the state. I think in general with this segment, if you were to put him in jail, that's us basically hitting the full panic alarm and saying I would probably try and trade for whatever I can get back. So
Yeah.
we're not at that stage. So I think it makes sense that you would say, hey, we're worried about this guy, but it's not a full panic and get rid of him right now.
Yeah.
So
The suspended sentence for sure.
I'd like to talk directly to Dalvin right now, though, here in the witness box and say, young man, if I ever see you in my court again,
That's
I hope this
jail.
has been just the shake-up you need to get you right
Exactly.
on the straight and narrow again, young man.
I'm sure he's listening.
Yes, so.
It's the kind of
I'm
thing
sure
where when you see Judge Judy turn around to the young defendant sitting up in the box next to her, and she just scares the shit out of him into telling the truth, even though he looks so
I
cocky and
will.
swaggery when he comes in. I'm hoping that's the moment I've had with Dalvin Cook right now.
Yeah, I will relay that message onto my client here, Your Honor. He will follow all of your directions dutifully, and everything. Cannot pronounce any words, but thank you, Your Honor.
English is a tough language for all of us, man. Do not feel bad.
Yeah.
I am a butcher of the
Dutifully.
language, and I have been documented to be so for the last 2 years and 3 months on this show. There's a back catalogue of 200 opportunities for people to pick fun at me for butchering the language.
Yeah.
Well, I say the court is adjourned. Thank you, gentlemen. I think we really need to we really need to be careful about what we do with Dalvin Cook in this instance. He's generally an upstanding member of the fantasy community, and to tar him with the brush just for a few bad weeks is probably a little over aggressive. But thank you for your contributions to the prosecution for bringing it to light, and I trust this has been enough to put the young man on the straight and narrow.
This is the Aussie NFL Fantasy Show.
Absolute legend. Yeah, Papa John. Massive shout out to my dad. Shout out to my mom as well.
Dad
Shout out to my sister playing the trumpet in the background.
Sis
And my brother for giving up the room for once a week.
Bro John.
Yeah.
This is the Aussie NFL Fantasy Show.